Bill O'Brien is finally out in Houston. Join us today as we go through week 4 of the NFL season. Hey guys, welcome back to the Mr. R Show Sports. Today we are going through week 4 of the NFL season, giving you guys our reaction, kind of our game by game. But Ashton, let's start off with just the news we've heard today. That is Bill O'Brien is finally fired from the Houston Texans. All I got to say is about time. Ashton, what do you think?
I'm sorry, Texans fans. It's not a big loss. He should have been fired after that trade with DeAndre Hopkins. As a Rams fan, I feel your pain because you didn't want him to leave. I surely didn't want Arizona to get him. So I feel your pain, and I'm happy he's gone so he can stop trading all your good players to our opponents.
100% Ashton. It's about time he got fired. Should have been fired, honestly, when he blew a 24-point lead against the Chiefs in the playoffs last year. But finally, they start 0-4. He's going to be gone. So it's going to happen. It just is what it is. Texans fans, it's time to move on. You still have Deshaun Watson, so you still have a future. But guys, let's go ahead and kick off week 4 with our Thursday night game that was the trashy game of the Broncos and the Jets. High scoring because there was not much defense in to show for 37-28 victory for the Broncos. This was the only game of the year maybe the Jets could look competitive. You have the Denver's third string quarterback, second string quarterback, and Ripon, something like that, who did 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So Denver still found a way to win the game with 3 picks from the quarterback. That's a problem with New York, and Denver is not as sucky as New York, but still is sucky. But a win's a win.
Well, people have to remember Denver. It's not the fact that Denver is necessarily a bad team. They have a lot of injuries. Um, this is definitely a game you can't lose, but let's be honest, Andy. The Broncos ain't going to go to the playoffs, given their circumstance. So this is kind of a non-factor game. The Jets aren't really going to the playoffs. I'm sorry if you're a fan of both those franchises. Jets, you had no future for the next 2 or 3, 4 years. Broncos, on the other hand, I think they have somewhat of a future. Locke looks solid for starting QB. He doesn't necessarily look bad. You still kind of don't know what you have with him. So we'll see if he returns to form when he comes back after his injury. But this game is a non-factor.
Next game on the first Sunday docket was the Jaguars and the Bengals. Bengals notching their first win in the Joe Burrow era, 33-25 against the Jaguars. Again, when you play the Jaguars and the Bengals, these teams are, they have futures, they have some prospects, but they're not competing in any shape or form this season. So it was going to be a close game. We both predicted the Bengals to squeeze this one out. We were right there. Bengals get a good win and starts that Joe Burrow off era with the win, which was definitely needed.
Yeah, Andy, both me and you like what we see from Joe Burrow. I really think he is having such a great year with a team that he elevates, and that's what you want from your new rookie quarterback. You want him to elevate. And we see this year 2 really good rookie QBs having solid starts, being Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, like really solid performances by both of them. And I think Joe Burrow is the real deal. And I think, the Bengals, if you're going to spend a first round pick and a number 1 pick at that on a QB, you want return, right? You want value. If you're a Bengals fan, be happy. You may not go somewhere this year, but you got good value and you have a bright future.
Yes, 100%. Ashton, that offense in Cincinnati looks very potent. Looks like it can be fun to watch for years to come. Defensive side of the ball really needs to step it up. Offensive line needs to give Burrow more time, but he's still finding ways to keep it close in every game, and finally gets that win against the Jacksonville team, which just uh, let's just be real, isn't there yet. Isn't going to be there for at least another year or two. But next game up on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, albeit, was one of the most fun games to watch going into the third and fourth quarters because of how Dallas likes to be. The Browns getting a win, 49-38 against the Cowboys. It looked like the Cowboys could maybe come back and win it. They were down by 3 at one point in the fourth quarter. I was watching that game at that point because Dak Prescott, my gosh, when it's the second half, he turns on. The first half, we're not going to talk about that because he seems like he's sluggish off the bat. But that second half, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the second half this year. It's insane. They don't win the game because of Odell Beckham's crazy like sweep run, almost for a touchdown that got the Browns the go ahead score that sealed the deal. But Cowboys, this was a must win for them on their season if they wanted to look good or even really compete. Well, you really don't have to compete for a playoff spot being in the NFC East, but they're not going to be a threat. And this was a game that was defining, and the Browns are 3-1 now. And as much as me and you aren't huge fans of Baker Mayfield, he's finding a way to get it done. They're 3-1, and the Browns and the AFC North is a tough conference to look at.
You know what's not a tough conference, Andy? That maybe a team with 4 wins can go to the playoffs, the NFC East, because man, it's what I don't. What is it with this conference? All the teams, even the supposedly good ones, they all look like they can lose to each other or win to each other or beat each other. Like it's bad. I think I had the Texans winning this. I mean, oh sorry, wrong game. I was looking and I had a Freudian slip. Yeah, cut that out, Andy. Cut it out. Okay. Yeah, Andy, it's pretty surprising just like how Dallas is they don't put bad performances, but they're not whole performances if you know what I mean, Andy. NFC East is a terrible division. It's worse than last year, clearly. And I think a team with 4 or 5 wins can go to the playoffs. That's sad. That's really sad to say. It'll end up being a team with 6 or 7 or maybe 8. If Dallas turns it around, because like with Dallas's personnel, you should not be underperforming. You should be winning games with that talent. Other teams would die to have that level of talent on their roster. And same thing with the Browns. And you're starting to see the Browns put it together slowly every week. I'm not going to say they're going to be dangerous. This is a lot more promising than that team last year that everyone said was going to go to a Super Bowl. Because, man, that was bad. But this year, it's a little bit more promising. Of course, they played Dallas, which loves to underperform until it's the third and fourth quarter to make you think that they're going to be in the game just to let you down. I'm sorry if you're a Dallas fan, but, I guess you're used to it now.
Yeah, if the Cowboys want any chance to be anything this year, they really got to play for the full 60 minutes. A game is not just after halftime, and they really need to step it up. They have the talent, and they need to show it. Moving on, a game that was closer than I really thought it was going to be. The Saints barely beating the Lions 35-29. The Saints this year just isn't. They're not living up to expectations, in my opinion. Drew Brees is not. He's showing his regression a lot more than we expected it to be from last season to this season. I know he's up there now. He's in his 40s now. I get that, but man, it's like he just can't pass the ball really anymore, and it's sad to see the Saints not being this because the talent's on the Saints to win games, and they do, and they have the talent to make the playoffs easily. But I just don't see them as Super Bowl contenders anymore because of just what we've seen the first 4 weeks. We're a quarter through the season, and just it is what it is with the Saints. The Lions put up a good fight, but just talent wise, they're outmatched with the Saints. But Matt Patricia needs to find a way to win, or he's gonna be out, just like Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, Andy, the Saints to me, they're very. I don't know. I feel like they don't have a lot of a drive. Who thought Tom Brady would be looking better right now than Drew Brees? Like, I don't think a lot of people thought that. I knew like Tom Brady's the GOAT and everything, but still, Drew Brees has been on a good team consistently, and Saints have been so consistent. I guess they're starting to slow down. You're starting to see holes in their game and on their roster. Now, it's still a good team. I still expect them to go playoffs. They're contender for their division title, but they're definitely showing their sluggishness, and when they play better teams, they have to play better or they're going to lose a lot of those teams. lose to a lot of those teams. Lions aren't bad. They're a promising team. They're just not there. They're a third tier team. They're trying to get to the second and first tier.
Yeah, we'll see how the Lions do. They need to step it up. There's still plenty of football left. They can figure it out. They just got to do it now or before it's too late. Moving on to my Dolphins game where the Seahawks beat us 31-23. Now, my kind of first reactions for the Miami game was, man, Ryan Fitzpatrick has looked bad in this game. I mean, wow. He was just looked like he just was making every wrong decision, and he got bailed out by his receivers a lot of times. The defense did enough to be able to beat the Seahawks. I mean, it is the Seahawks. Russ is cooking this year, so defense did enough. Like I said, receivers did enough, but man, it really gets me to the point where I think it's almost Tua time. I mean, we've seen the offensive line is decent enough, but you look at Burrow, we'll talk about this guy in a second, Justin Herbert, with their lines that they have and the way they're doing it. But you know, it's tough to decide, but Tua in this game might have got us that victory. I know you were talking to me about that, and he might have done it, but really the score doesn't tell the whole story. We got a touchdown in garbage time after the game was sealed to make it closer than it was. So really, we had a chance late, but it was an interception, then an instant touchdown for the Seattle. So it's pretty much over. But we have fight this year. I'll give it that. I like seeing a fight, but man, the Miami schedule has been very rough, and we got the win that we did, but against Jacksonville. But other than that, we played some really tough people, and the rest of the season, I'm ready for.
Yeah, Andy. I really think Fitzpatrick is killing your guys' offense a lot. Your defense, I like it. I think it's good enough to beat really top tier teams. Does it have holes? Yes. I think your secondary needs a little bit of work. Um, Overall, Dolphins have a solid defense. Their offense is what is kind of slugging a little bit behind everything, and it's Fitzpatrick's arm. He's just not the crispest at making reads. He'll have one or two games a season where he's really, really good. But besides that, he's average to mediocre on production in the air. And that's what you need on this Dolphins team to start stretching the field vertically and allow better runs. Um, in total, I mean, it was a solid win for the Seahawks. Um, Solid effort by Dolphins. I mean, I like both teams, Seahawks more, but they both did good.
The next game we're going to be talking about today is a game that was really fun. It was back and forth, back and forth. The GOAT, Tom Brady, just edging out Justin Herbert and the Chargers 38-31. Ashton, three words, Justin Herbert, four words actually. Justin Herbert is here. Man, when you're getting praises from Tom Brady about the way he's performing at quarterback, the way he's evading sacks and throwing that ball downfield for first downs or completions and touchdowns, Herbert looks good. I mean, sorry for Tyrod Taylor fans out there, but Herbert's the guy. He's going to lead this Chargers team. To compete on the road against the Buccaneers like this is impressive against a defense that has been pretty good this year, especially against the run. So Herbert was going to be, on full display, and he pretty much shined. I know it's not a win, so you can't say he's shined, But man, this Chargers team is always going to be competitive. They're going to take any team in the league, and I mean any team in the league, to four quarters, and you got to play them all four quarters. I think they'll win some games they shouldn't, lose some games they shouldn't, but maybe finish with 6, 7, 8 wins. But they got a good future, and I'm excited to see what happens in LA. Buccaneers, they're going to keep moving. Playoff team, but most likely not Super Bowl team.
Yeah, Andy, I will definitely say with the Chargers, they are very impressive. They're very much like last year where they lost, I think, 7 games by 3 points. That's a lot of close games, and I think this year is starting to be a same pattern. They're losing a lot of close games, and you got to pull those wins out even against good teams, and that's what's going to get you over the line to get into the playoffs. But overall, it was impressive by their QB. Justin Herbert just looks fresh. His long balls are very beautiful. Um, I I think he was the better QB out of the two this game. Not that Tom Brady was particularly awful. I do think he made good throws, but I had the feeling on some throws he was getting bailed out by some really, really stud receivers.
Yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers are a good team. They're not a great team. So, like I said, they'll go to the playoffs, but I don't see them really competing for a Super Bowl. But Ashton, moving on to a game which we really don't got to spend much time on. It is what it is. Ravens pretty much controlling, manhandling, and demolishing the Washington football team, 31-17. Washington's hurt. They weren't going to stop Lamar Jackson. Wasn't The Ravens didn't look great this game, but they got it. The talent is leaps and bounds far when the gap is huge there. So
Well,
Ravens get the
they
job done,
stopped
get their
trying.
business. Ravens get the win.
Well, the Ravens stopped trying really after second half. It was pretty much gone from Washington at that point. And against a team like the Ravens, the second they get a lead above 7 points, and you don't have some offensive explosiveness, you're done. You're done. So good win by the Ravens.
Moving on to actually a more surprising victory of the week. Ashton, the Panthers, beating the Cardinals was a 31-21. This Panthers team's offense is looking a lot better than any of us really predicted at the beginning of the season. Mike Davis, one of a former South Carolina running back, has stepped into that role and kind of looked pretty good. Obviously not at McCaffrey level, but has done a lot and done some good things for this offense. Bridgewater has played a lot better than expected this year. They're not perfect, but they got 2 wins through week 4, something that people really didn't see coming against a Cardinals team that has been hot pretty much this year. Cardinals, though, they lost last week too, correct, Ashton?
Mm-hmm.
So that they've lost 2 straight. They need to figure it out. They look really good the first 2 weeks, not so much the last 2 weeks. So they need to figure out if they want to go far. The NFC West is deep this year. They got to start winning these games, or they're not going to be able to make the playoffs. It's as simple as that. Panthers doing good. We'll see how far they can actually go, but just Cardinals really lost this game.
Yeah, I don't think this was a thing of the Panthers winning. I think this was more the Cardinals losing it. The Cardinals, I always said their weakness was defense, and it's the worst by far out of the four NFC West teams. And they lost to yeah, they've lost to two NFC teams. That's big for playoff seeding. It's like it's one thing to lose to an AFC team, but tiebreakers go to NFC. So you got to make sure you're winning games like this, like the Lions and the Panthers. Those are games they're going to give you a fight, but you need to win those. So Cardinals, I do think this team has a decently high ceiling, but their floor is still pretty low if they don't perform and if Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins carry this team, which they have been against lesser opponents.
Do you have the other games pulled up? I want you to do the rest of them.
Hmm.
Starts with the Vikings and the Texans. It's on ESPN. I'm just using the ESPN app. What do you want me to keep continuing?
I'll go on.
Just speed it up. I want to watch the game. It's almost the fourth quarter.
Okay. All right, Andy. So let's go ahead and move on to Vikings at Texans. Vikings pull off a 8-point win. Um, I mean, we both these teams have been underperforming, but the Vikings pulled something together, and Texans got their head coach fired for losing.
Yeah, Vikings winning this game ultimately just saved their coach's uh, job one more week, honestly. But it was really whoever loses this game, their coach should be fired, and rightfully so. I think though even though Bill O'Brien being fired is the right move, I do give him a little bit more slack for this season just because their schedule has been tougher than the Vikings and they haven't lost to teams that they really shouldn't have lost. I mean, Minnesota is a team that you shouldn't lose to at home. I understand that, but still they've had a much tougher schedule. But there's no excuse. You're 0-4, you got to win a game, especially after those trades and those blowouts of last season. It was just going to be time. Texans really are just going to be in shambles for the rest of the year. It'll be interesting to see who they try to go get as a new coach or who's going to step in that role. But good win, I guess, for the Vikings. But both teams just don't look like they should this year.
Yeah, I feel so bad for you know the QB Watson. I feel so bad for him because he got put on a good team and then all the good pieces got traded away. So yeah, Texans gonna be a hard team to predict in the next few weeks because they still have good talent, but it's not performing, and the entire leadership of the team is in shambles. So it's gonna be a little hard to predict. All right, Andy, let's go ahead and move on to Bills at Raiders. Um, Not a surprising uh win from the Bills. I think we both expected the Bills to win this, but Raiders gave them a fight. So the Raiders looked solid, but overall, my reactions are Josh Allen look good. The Raiders look good too, but they just couldn't hold the Bills down long enough to win.
The crazy part about this Bills team this year, other than them being 4-0, is that their defense just hasn't been up to the same standards last season, but they're still winning games. If their secondary and their defense can get that switch turned on like we saw last year, this will be a very, very competitive and one of the only teams that can challenge the Chiefs in the AFC right now. I mean, man, the Bills, like I said, their defense just hasn't shown up and have left teams in the game, kept them competitive. You look at it with the Dolphins and now with the Raiders. The Bills are clearly better than both those teams, but they have left them in the game longer. They still win the game, but that defense is going to need to get clicked on and clicked on soon, or they might lose one of these games that they shouldn't. That
Yeah,
Rams game was very, very close to a loss if it was not for a late, controversial flags, late drive that was like they almost lost. Their defense has to step up and secure when they got leads. But a win's a win. They're 4-0, and they look like one of the best teams in the NFL.
yeah, their second half of their schedule is a lot harder, so they need to pick up on the defensive side if they want to beat some of those more offensively gifted teams. All right, Andy, let's go to the Colts at Bears. The Colts win, beat the Nick Foles Bears. I mean,
What a boring game, honestly. It was if the Bears score 11 points, Colts score 19. The Colts are one of those teams that's just it's like it's hard to judge them because they're not good, but they're not bad. It's like they're weird. They're kind of a weird team. I mean, I get you kind of understand what I'm saying there.
they're
Like they're
like
gonna
the
win more
Chargers.
games. Yeah, they're gonna win more games, but they're also gonna lose a lot more. So, they're a solid 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 win team, but there's nothing impressive there. I mean, no one really expected the Bears to be 3-0 going into week 4, and obviously they're 3-1. It makes sense. The Bears aren't that good. Their defense keeps them in games where they shouldn't be, and they just couldn't do enough against the Colts offensively to win. So, win's a win for Colts, and move on.
All right, Andy, let's go to our arguably the upset of the week. Eagles at 49ers pull off the upset and beat the 49ers. 49ers are kind of reeling now. They lose to a very weakened Eagles team. These are like they switch out their QB late in the fourth or midway through the fourth. I don't even remember the guy's name. Blethard, I think Bethard. He looked better than Mullins, but I you only saw one drive, maybe one drive and a half, so I don't know. Um, the Eagles look bad still, but they beat a other team that is kind of in shambles. Andy, any reaction to add to that?
There's nothing. If you're a 49ers fan, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, your team is injured. Your team is hurt. You're going between second and third string quarterbacks. You're going to get Jimmy G back soon. Nick Bosa's out for the year, so that makes sense. Deebo Samuel came back, but it's not 100%. You can tell that when he only has 3 catches. He'll be back. They're going to start getting their players back. So there's nothing to worry about with the loss of the Eagles. The Eagles, even though they've looked bad through the first 3 weeks of the season, they still got talent and are still a good football team if they just start to play better, like not making the same decision, and Carson Wentz decides to not be this awful, awful quarterback that we've seen the first couple of weeks. So an Eagles win, people are going to say is an upset. The Eagles are still a good team, and if they can get it together, they can go on a streak and win 8 to 9 more games in the season and look like a 10-win team. Like they have the potential there. So I don't see it as more of an upset. I see it as more, they needed a win there against a team that is injured and should not win against you, and they did it 24-20. I wouldn't say either team looked particularly good,
25,
but
20.
it is what it is. The Eagles win.
Mm-hmm. All right, Andy, let's move on to the New York Giants at my LA Rams. And I will let you go first because I know you have a lot to say with this. I have a lot to explain about this. So you can go ahead and go because you like to hate on my Rams. It's fine. I get it. Um, the floor is yours.
It's just it's simple. I mean, you beat the Giants, hooray! Was I impressed with your team? No. Your offense. I know what McVay was doing. I get it. He didn't want to have effort. I get that. You shouldn't play effort when you play the Giants, but I don't know. I mean, you scored 17 against the Giants when you scored more against the Cowboys. I feel like that's kind of a weird stat line to look at. I mean, you look at how much you scored against a defense like the Bills, but you can barely score against the Giants. Like, it's the Rams. They didn't look bad. I mean, they controlled the game. I mean, there was one potential chance where the Giants might have scored and went ahead, but still plenty of time on the clock. So I wouldn't say there was any one point where the Giants could have won the game. But if you're a Rams fan, that like you can't say this game is not going to say, oh, this game proves we're a Super Bowl team. It doesn't, and like that's why it's so frustrating for me to try to predict the Rams end of the year because one week when they played the Bills and they start off cold but then have an amazing second half, I'm like this team could possibly make it to the Super Bowl, but then I see them play lackluster and kind of don't take their opponents seriously with the Giants, and it makes me feel like they're going to be a first round team exit. So it's so hard for me to just decide where the Rams are going to be this season, and they need to go out there and just dominate these teams. Even the 49ers did without their starting quarterback, without Debo Samuel, could dominate a team like the Jets. But I don't know. A win's a win, so I'm not going to say, oh, I'm disappointed, but they just didn't do anything to impress me, is all I'm saying.
So, Andy, this game kind of reminded me of the 2018 season game against the Broncos, where that team was kind of not the best team. As you said, McVay, he didn't put effort into the play calling. Um, he, and I don't agree with McVay's decision to do this. I don't agree with the fact that almost every offensive player wanted to pretend this was just a practice team against, or a practice against a legitimate NFL team. I don't like that. Our running game was anemic. Our O line didn't really come up this play. The Giants felt like they were trying to play the win. The Rams were just playing. Um, I don't like that. That will lose you trap games if you do that. But ultimately, this Rams team just has a lot more talent than the Giants. Even McVay said that he was anticipating a harder defense because this was Joe Judge, the same guy McVay had trouble with in the Super Bowl. So I, I that was more McVay being nice than anything else. He was in control this entire game. He had vanilla. He didn't want to put stuff on tape. I don't like that. I've seen enough McVay games to know when McVay is trying to win with clever calls, with a lot of bootlegs, with a lot of stuff like that. I mean, McVay literally kept on calling the same screen pass multiple times. He doesn't normally do that. He was just doing that because he was like, well, I mean, might as well. Because our defense played a solid game. I mean, it's the Giants, so you don't have to do much. And they didn't do much, and they held them to all field goals, had two red zone stands. So, I mean, it's a this game shouldn't impress anyone about the Rams, but the Rams weren't looking to impress. Blowing out the Giants wouldn't have impressed anyone anyways. I would prefer it. It would make me feel better going into next week, and I would feel better if we blow out Washington. We might, but ultimately I don't, for some reason McVay feels like he doesn't need to put on a uh light show for the whole league, and we'll see if that works out. I don't know if they are a Super Bowl team. I'm not going to say that now. I'm still trying to get a feeling for defense. They're top 10 right now in points allowed. I don't know if that'll continue. And I don't know about the offense. There's still some questions I have. Will the O line hold up still? And will the running game continue to be really good? So we'll see if those are just early flashes or they will be long standing through the season. So Andy, let's go ahead and move on to uh man, the Patriots at the Chiefs in a very disappointing Patriots team. Clearly because they didn't have Cam. They missed Super Cam apparently a lot because man, their backups do not look good, Andy.
Yeah, when you start with disappointing, I'm like, hold up, Ashton, gotta no Cam. So I mean, it is what it is. You can't really judge this Patriots team without Cam Newton. So of course the Chiefs are going to beat a Brian Hoyer or Jarrett Stidham led Patriots team. Patriots defense look fine. They look good enough with the Chiefs. Only allowing 26 against the Chiefs is pretty good. They are one of the top five best offenses in the league right now. So their defense is there to win. I wish we could have sold this game with a fully healthy or no COVID Patriots team. We didn't get that, so you can't really take any away from the Patriots. They did lose, which does suck, but it's understandable. You have no offense and you don't really have your starter quarterback. It's like that with almost any team. The Rams, the 49ers, the Dolphins.
Mhm.
If you don't have your starter quarterback, or at least someone that's a starter caliber quarterback, you're not going to win games. And Chiefs won, good for them. They keep rolling, but sucks for the Patriots.
Yeah, it's very rare when your backup QB ends up being a star. It's very rare. The Rams had one in 2001, but that doesn't happen often. And he hates our franchise now. But Patriots losing Cam, I picked the Patriots to win this game, and that was before Cam decided to go out and party and get COVID, or it was probably hiding in his wigs or whatever he wears on top of his head. So it's disappointing for me because I really wanted that win. But Chiefs got it done against a team with a lot of infections. I guess use more Purell, Patriots. All right, Andy, let's go to the last game. The blower of leads, Falcons. Can't blow a lead if you don't have one, Andy. And they definitely didn't this game. Green Bay puts away a subdued Falcons team that seems depressed now.
Yeah, Ashton, honestly, if I had to vote for my MVP right now through 4 weeks, I probably would have to give it to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what he's doing on this team is insane. He did not have Devontae Adams Monday night. He didn't have Devontae Adams last week, but he's still throwing almost perfect. I mean, this man is pretty much perfect throwing the ball. It's insane. He hasn't had a single turnover yet or single interception yet. That's insane numbers through 4 weeks against some of the teams he's played. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the Falcons' defense was one to be scared of. It's not. It's trash. And the Falcons' offense is the Falcons' offense. You take it what it is. So the Falcons weren't going to win this game anyways. But man, Aaron Rodgers has got this team going. He's playing with a fiery passion that we see when you count out Aaron Rodgers. He does things like this. This Packers team is going to be a force and could potentially be in that Super Bowl and maybe even win a Super Bowl. I'm not going to go that far, but this Packers team looks really good, especially when they're fully healthy.
Yes, Andy, I agree. I really like this Packers team. It's a solid group. It just shows you, Andy, you got to be good first, like our good friend A-Rod, before you start doing commercials like Baker Mayfield does. Maybe he needs to work on his arm a little bit more before he keeps on doing more commercials. So A-Rod puts on a clinic almost every season, and it's irritating to me to see these people who just try to cash out without putting in the hard work. Hey, I couldn't be an NFL QB. I get it, it's a hard job, but like some people are, they just look like they take it for granted. And not to make this about Baker, but get better, Baker. But A-Rod, you're doing your job. go do all the Progressive commercials you want or whatever insurance you're trying to sell. You're doing solid, and you're definitely MVP candidate for me. I don't disagree with you there. Russ is kind of in that conversation. We'll probably do a video about that halfway through the season.
Yeah, Ashton, I love seeing, Aaron Rodgers in those progressive commercials, and he's earned it, like you said. So go do all the commercials you want. But guys, that is our week 4 reactions. What do you guys think? It was not as wild of a week as some other weeks, but still some cool games in there, some fun games to watch, and definitely some good performances from teams. Let us know down in the comments what you guys thought. If you like this video, please hit that like button out. It helps us out a ton. Share and subscribe. We'll be back to you guys on Thursday for our week 5 prediction videos. But until next time, guys, stay safe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.